Begin, though, with a busy day of primary elections as voters in 3 states head to the polls today.
In New York, a special election in a swing district could measure the mood of the nation ahead of the November midterms. Also in New York, specifically New York City, 2 powerful House Democrats are pitted against each other, competing for the same seat because of the state's new congressional map. And in Florida, where Republicans have won a series of statewide nail-biters in recent years, Democrats will pick their candidates to face off against 2 high-profile GOP incumbents. Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio will examine the possible matchups there. We're covering all of that with NBC News correspondents Dasha and Shaquille Brewster and NBC News political editor Mark Murray, who we will hear from in just a moment. Dasha, let's start with you in New York, that special election in the Hudson Valley. This is really the first competitive House race since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. So what should we know about this race and really this district?
Yeah, Joe, if you're looking for some clues about what might happen in November, come here to the Hudson Valley, to the 19th district, which extends up to Albany, because this really is a bellwether race. It's not a primary like the rest of the races we're going to be talking about today. It is a special election to replace the lieutenant governor's position, and it is a race between Democrat Pat Ryan and Republican Mark Molinaro. Now, the reason that this is such a hotly watched race by the nation, as you said it there, it is really the first competitive congressional race since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and it might be the very last bellwether we have before November. And here, what we're really looking at is to see which party has the edge, right? Whether it's going to be Republicans propelling voters to the polls on Biden's unpopularity, on the pain of inflation, or whether Democrats can really ride the wave of frustration over the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade. The Democratic candidate, Pat Ryan, has really put abortion at the center of his campaign. His signs read "Choice is on the ballot." Yesterday, he gave us a comment saying that the stakes could not be higher for our community, our country, our democracy, saying that it is absolutely essential that we put choice at the center of our campaign. Mark Molinaro, on the other hand, the Republican opponent here, he has very much downplayed abortion. He has instead focused on the economy. All of his messaging has focused on the lack of success Democrats have had in fixing the inflation problem. And so that question, is it inflation? Is it abortion? What is going to drive voters is at the heart of this. Whoever wins this election is really only going to serve for a handful of months before we once again have another election. The overarching theme in New York right now really is redistricting, but this could answer a whole lot of questions about what is going to animate folks in November, Joe.
All right, so Dasha, let's talk about one of those primaries in Manhattan. We've got 2 top Democrats battling to keep their congressional careers alive. Representatives Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney each holds a powerful House committee, leads a powerful House committee. They have both been in office since 1992. Quickly on this one, who has the edge right now? Do we know?
Yeah, I mean, look, either way, this isn't great for Democrats, and that's why I say redistricting is really kind of the big story here, because it has mashed some districts together. It has created entire new ones. And either way here, a longtime Democratic career is going to come to an end tonight. It's likely that Nadler has a slight edge because the third newcomer candidate has run against Maloney before and will likely pull voters from her. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And regardless, Democrats are going to see a loss in Congress today, Joe.
All right, let's bring in Shaq. He's in South Florida for more on the governor's race there. We have a former Republican governor, Charlie Crist, now running in the Democratic primary against Florida's Agriculture Commissioner, Nikki Fried. The winner will then try to unseat incumbent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis this fall. Shaq, what can you tell us about this one?
Well, we know first polls are open. They just opened up past couple of minutes ago. They'll be open until 7 p.m. later today. And we do know that before we even got to this point, more than 2 million voters have cast their ballot either by mail or absentee voting. And this will be the conclusion of this contentious primary race that we've been watching at the gubernatorial level to take on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. You set it up a little bit there, but on one side you have Charlie Crist. He's a Democratic representative, but he was the former Republican governor governor of Florida back in 2006. He is someone who has had to defend that record as a Republican in this Democratic primary, specifically when you're talking about the issue of abortion and some of the appointments he made as governor to the Supreme Court. He's had to defend that record against Nikki Fried. She's the Agriculture Commission here. She is someone who is the only Democrat elected at a statewide level in Florida currently serving in office. She says she represents something new and would be that bigger contrast to Ron DeSantis. I want you to listen to what those two candidates told me about their closing message earlier this week.
I am ready for this fight, ready to take him on, and we'll make sure that we have a winning message. We're going to pull over Republican women, independent women, and they're going to vote to have the first female governor of the state of Florida.
We've got to beat Ron DeSantis, and I can beat him. I mean, I've been the governor. I've been the attorney general and fought for civil rights. I've been the elected commissioner of education and fought for our teachers. That's the difference. Electability and experience. I offer both, and a good heart. That's what Florida needs and deserves.
You hear that intense focus there on Ron DeSantis. Both of those candidates acknowledge that what they will fight and what they will see, that battle ahead in November, is going to be a contentious one, and it will be a tough one. Ron DeSantis is a popular governor here. He polls at above 50%. When you look at his approval ratings, he has that national profile as a potential 2024 presidential contender, and he has more than $130 million in the bank. So despite whoever wins out of this Democratic primary, whoever comes out of it and is nominated by the Democratic voters here, they will have a tough fight ahead as we look ahead to November.
And Shaq, let's quickly talk about the Senate race there in Florida. Democrats want to oust the incumbent, Senator Rubio, who's seeking his third term. Recent polls suggest Congresswoman Val Demings has a shot to do that if she wins her primary today. What should we know about this one?
Yeah, Val Demings, she is up for her primary right now. She has Democratic challengers as she seeks to take on Marco Rubio, but most political observers say that she is far ahead in that race, that they're not serious challengers. She will likely be the Democratic nominee to take on Senator Marco Rubio. And you mentioned those polls that we've seen. I'll tell you, people on both sides of the aisle have cautioned us from looking too much at those polls. You know, one thing that people say is that this is Florida. The race is going to be tight no matter what. We do know that Val Demings does have some advantages at this point. She has been one of the best fundraisers that we've seen, not just here in Florida, but really the entire country, with $47 million that she's raised for her campaign. She's a former police chief. She's a congresswoman out of Orlando area. She was one of the contenders for President Biden's vice presidential nominee. So she has that profile. She has the ability to raise some money, and we expect that race to be a close one once we get through today's primary.
Shaq Brewster and Dasha setting the table for a big day at the polls. Thank you both.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.